So there's a good little extension to this one, and this would be representing the hours that Rima would work that would not get overtime. And we can do this verbally, we can do this graphically, and we can also do this algebraically as well. So let's kind of say, in terms of this, what would be the inequalities where Rima does not is not eligible for overtime? Let's go is not getting overtime pay. So we already have the answers for getting overtime pay. So really, we just have to do the exact opposite of what's going on. So let's do it verbally first. So if I'm going to go take a look back at my answer for verbally, we kind of said that any amount of hours worked that is over 40 hours per week is overtime. Well, what's the opposite of that? Careful here, because you might be wanting to say that, oh, it's just any amount of hours that are under 40, but we're kind of forgetting something about that because we should have 40 in there as well. So I would say here, any amount of hours, worked per week, of course, that equals or is less than 40. Any amount of hours worked per week that is that equals or is less than 40. I would say that as a really good verbal response for this one. How does this work? Well, first off, less than 40 because before we had more than 40 or over 40, but also we need to take into consideration here that you can equal 40 hours a week and not get overtime because that would be considered a normal working week for some jobs at least, right? Or for Remus at least. In terms of graphically, we can go ahead and take a look at that. Now, graphically, we used a open boundary point at 40, right? Our boundary point's 40. We used a number line, and we had our arrow pointing in the direction of the larger numbers. Well, in this case, we should do everything opposite than that. If you think about it, any amount of hours worked that are under 40, say 20 hours worked, say 30 hours worked, say even 40 hours worked, would not be considered overtime. So when we're doing this extension, we're still going to put down our number line. I'm still going to have my boundary point of 40 here. I'm still going to have 1, 2, 3. I'll go a little extra here to 36. 1, 2, 3. I'll go a little more up here. We have numbers larger than 40 over here. We have numbers that are less than 40 over here. And we want to represent our boundary point this time with a closed dot, right? This is now closed to represent that we can equal 40. We can equal 40 hours worked per week. Instead of our arrow going over towards the right, or I should say towards the larger numbers, we're going to make our arrow go over to the left. Little dip there, but that's okay. Our arrow should be going to the left here. And again, this is going to be pointing towards the numbers that are less than 40. Numbers that are less than 40. Right? And that's really what this thing is doing. So graphically, instead of using open, we're using closed. And instead of going over towards the right, we're going to the left. And finally, we can do algebraically. And we would just say in terms of our inequality from before, I'm going to use my same variable of a. I don't really have to redefine it. I already know what it is from before, so we're okay with that. But a would have to be less than or equal to 40. Just kind of like we said verbally, right? And this would be the amount of hours that she would work that would not indicate overtime. So that would kind of be what we're going for in this question, which is just a little bit of an extension for the last line, but kind of teaches us a lot about what inequalities are.